What's going on, guys? So today we're going to do something a little special, a little something, little jolly, you know what I mean? In lieu of the Christmas season. We just want to give thanks to you guys this year for all of the support that you guys have given us, helping our channel grow. And we appreciate you guys as fans, the Fair Shake football team really appreciates it. So we kind of wanted to give back this holiday season. So we have here this signed Javonte Williams Denver Broncos mini helmet that we're going to be giving away to you guys this year. So really, it's pretty simple to enter. All you got to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a comment with either a football emoji, could be the ball, football helmet, even a little Santa Claus, a little Christmas tree, and that will get you an entry into the drawing. Bonus entries, if you go follow us on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram, be sure to come back, in YouTube, leave a comment with your handle so we know it's you, to make sure you get your bonus entries in. This is something we're really excited about, and we just kind of want to give back and say thanks. So Merry Christmas to you all, and we will catch you in the next one.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's podcast, Fair Shake Football. Josh is here with me.
Hello.
We're just basically going to discuss some fantasy matchups, some good matchups for each position entering Week 15. I cannot believe it's Week 15
It's
already.
the playoffs, baby.
It's crazy.
If you were lucky enough to make it, kudos to you. I've made it.
Well, they all made it.
Well, that's true. If you're listening to us, you definitely made it in playoffs, because we know what the fuck we're talking about. But yeah, it's wild that the season, I guess, fantasy season's coming down to the end here.
Yeah, I can't believe how fast it went, really. It was crazy.
I mean, it happens. This shit happens every year,
Yeah.
We draft, and then all of a sudden it's over with. It's
Yeah.
depressing.
And every year there's guys that that we were high on that come out with and have a slow start. And then this is why I'm fighting this battle all year, every year, where they come out and have a slow start, and then we either sell them low or whatever, and then they pick it up towards the end, or the opposite. I wasn't expecting this from Jamar Chase. He comes out very slow. Very on fire, and then he kind of has a little bit of a 4-game slump entering this past week, and then he had a big game in this one. But it's just those. That's why I'm so into the splits and trying to anticipate what is most sustainable from different players and stuff, because I think oftentimes the most recent 4-game splits oftentimes can help us to understand whether, even if that guy has a slow start, maybe he's likely to get back into that kind of hot streak again at some point in the season. So it was a lot of that, this year. Like the Titans, look at them. What we thought about the Titans after week 6 or 7, is not what we think about them now. And they won last week in a shutout.
Right.
So it's a wild season, But the most, even we were just talking about this before we started recording, is Patrick Mahomes in a playoff matchup this Thursday against a division rival for first place in the AFC West. Is he a must start? I don't know.
Yeah,
Against the Chargers, by the way, in case you guys don't know.
Yeah, obviously people drafted him super high, so it's
you got to start him,
I guess. You got to roll them, essentially.
But
obviously they're also playing – the team is probably playing really well the last, 5 or 6 games that they won, 6 in a row now.
Yeah, second hottest team in football. But the problem, in my opinion, is the defense is playing so well that, he might not have to do it. Even last week, he had 22.9 points in our league. I don't know if the scoring is that much different than just standard leagues, but he had, a good game or whatever. But it was he only attempted 24 passes, and the defense only allowed 9 points.
He threw 2 touchdowns this week, threw 0 last week, had the bye the week before that, and then against Dallas, he had 260 for 0 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah.
He
lost the fumble.
Yeah, and the only 2 games that he's gone
the Raiders.
Nuts, yeah. The Raiders.
Yeah. Over the what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4 games.
And he didn't even really go nuts this game, obviously, because,
he was just really efficient and just did what he had to.
Yeah. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a couple touchdowns himself on the ground.
I think all their running backs had a touchdown. Like
Darrell Williams.
Darrell Williams had a receiving touchdown. Derek Gore had a touchdown on the ground, I believe.
Yeah, but yeah, he's got some tough matchups here. So talking about that, well, I guess we can just kind of jump into the quarterbacks playoff matchups and who we think might have the easiest schedules versus the hardest schedules.
Yeah, the one I like for this week in terms of quarterbacks is I like Kyler Murray to bounce back. He had a bit of a rough game last night against even without Jalen Ramsey, a good defense. That's why I posted last night. I said, hey, you guys, just in case you guys are wondering if I'm changing my pick with the Rams not having Jalen Ramsey, the answer is no. The reason why I said that, other than to just be a smartass, was because I don't really think the cornerback position is that dire in terms of like they were able to get after Kyler Murray a little bit, and I think that really is what matters. Plus, the defense is really good in LA, and that's something that I think people haven't really taken notice of. Is their defense is very good. If you just look at how they stack up against the run, against the everything, they're pretty damn good. So he didn't have a very good game. He's still kind of working his way back from injury too. He's only been this was his second game back after over a month long, out of action. So I think that this game in a bounce back, effort for the Cardinals in Detroit, I think it'll be a pretty good showing for Kyler Murray because ultimately they're just way too talented on their offense for what Detroit presents defensively, as well as when Detroit cannot score at all, it just starts to unravel for them. So I think that the Cardinals will really have their way, and I like Kyler Murray a whole. I mean, I honestly might like him as the QB1 this week.
This week for sure. Obviously, his other two games in the playoffs are not as easy with Indy and then Dallas.
Wow. The Rams might win that division, man.
Yeah, they might. And, like you said, Kyler Murray is probably number one QB this week.
Yeah.
But then after that, obviously you have to start him because he's such a polarizing playmaker.
I think he can run a lot versus Indy. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that happen.
I mean, Andy's given up, 13 most fantasy points to the QB position, and then Dallas is giving up the 17th fewest fantasy points. Obviously, Dallas's D is playing out their minds right now. Parsons gets after you.
Yeah, in this game.
Yeah.
Against Washington, they were dominant.
I mean, they're the sole reason why Dallas is even still in contention for the playoffs and Super Bowl because
Dak hasn't been great lately.
Yes, hasn't been great at all, and they've been playing well. So, and that's Kyler Murray's fantasy championship matchup. So it could be a shootout, obviously. So I mean, regardless of the matchup, he's could still potentially put up 20 plus.
Yeah, and
or 30 plus, maybe even.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's capable of that. Especially because what he can do with his legs. Like if he gets 70 yards and a touchdown on the ground, that's 17 points. You know what I mean? Or wait, that's 13 points. Additional. So like it combined with what he can do through the air is obviously he's capable of 30 against anybody. What do you think about Josh Allen this week against the Panthers? I mean, that's the second or was that third best fantasy defense in terms of quarterback fantasy points allowed per game?
It's going to be tough. Obviously, Josh is banged up now, so it's like that's another little additive to the matchup.
I could see them just saying, let's just start Trubisky if they have to and beat up on the Panthers anyways.
Like, I mean, maybe.
But they're desperate to win also. So
yeah, the Panthers give up the fourth fewest fantasy points to the QB position, so they're really well against QBs as far as this fantasy season is concerned. They have good secondary guys back there. So, and they have a below or above average pass rush. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the pass rush is pretty good. Well, here's the thing: if I were a Bills fan, what I'd be concerned about, and I think that ultimately the Bills will win that game. But what I'm saying is, I would be concerned if I was a Bills fan, and this is basically me sounding like a broken record. But if Buffalo lets the Panthers defense off the hook by just by dropping back to pass every time, I think that's playing right into their hands. Like that's what they want you to do. Where they struggle, I mean, and this is evident last week against the Falcons where they were getting blown off the ball at times just against the run. It was like run plays right up the middle. Guys are going untouched for 7, 8 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, completely untouched. And they're just getting complete move backwards. But I think that if you put them in a position where those edge rushers don't have to worry about anything except for getting upfield to the quarterback, that's a situation that plays pretty well into the Panthers' hands, in my opinion. So I would be a little bit concerned about that if I'm Buffalo. But that was a crazy game, by the way, that Bills Buccaneers game.
I mean, obviously Tom Brady with the walk-off touchdown
for number 700. That was a 700th passing touchdown, and he does it in 58-yard walk-off fashion. So, yeah.
In the most epic fashion ever.
So if I have Josh Allen, I'm starting him, I guess, but I'm not thrilled about it. I'm hoping he runs, but then the problem is he's got the foot injury, so it's like, is he even going to run?
Yeah.
You know? Are they?
And then they got New England.
Ooh, that's right.
After that, and they give up,
and that'll be in New England too.
Yeah, and they give up the second fewest fantasy points, and they might even be giving up the fewest over the last 6 games, whatever.
Yeah,
it's been.
Their defense is playing out of their minds.
They're going fucking nuts.
It's such a weird, like what I was talking about to start the podcast off. Like some guys come out, completely on fire, and then they cool off at the wrong time. Dak Prescott, remember, had that game against the Patriots where I think he had like over 400 passing yards, and he just went completely crazy. Like, imagine that. If somebody does that to the Patriots now, we'd be stunned. And Dak, over his last 4 games, has had only one game that was even good from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, so like,
and I feel like it has to do with a lot, good matchups towards the beginning of the season before guys start to figure it out. Coaching is not just, hey, we're going to coach you in the offseason. It's a full season thing, and guys learn as the games go on. Yeah. And, if
adjustments will be made.
Exactly.
Teams get better often, especially young teams. They usually get better.
Yeah, because they're hungry and then they're feisty, and they, essentially want to get paid. So it's like,
and the continuity builds, and communication becomes better. Just all around.
when you have a great coach like Bill Belichick, who's
he's
a
and
genius.
Matt Judon is playing out of his mind. They have everything in terms of pass rush. They can stop the run. They have an borderline elite pass rush combined with the good linebackers in the second level, and then an elite secondary. So it's like New England has everything. So yeah, but for Josh Allen owners, if you do make it through the tough matchups on paper,
say you have a first round bye, you don't have to worry about this weekend. You got to get through New England.
Yeah, then you get Atlanta.
Yeah.
He has Atlanta to finish the season, giving up the second most.
Great,
points,
yeah, so great matchup for the fantasy championship. But like we said, tough 2 games here to start. You're not thrilled about starting Josh Allen, but I think you kind of have to. It just kind of sucks how it's all kind of coming to fruition that he's got some pretty tough matchups to start the playoffs.
Yeah, and I am also not crazy about Lamar Jackson this week. I mean, even if he even plays, right? Because he's dealing with the ankle sprain. It was significant enough to cause him to miss the rest of the Browns game. So to me, that means it was it was an issue, right? And then if Lamar, let's just say he plays next week against the Packers, but he can't really run as much.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good Packers secondary and pass rush if you can't move.
Yeah, I don't like the matchup at all whatsoever with Lamar this week against the Packers.
Yeah, that's tough. And I also don't like Herbert. I don't like Mahomes, and I don't like Herbert either. Like as far as, unless the Chiefs just blow them out and maybe Herbert's gets you some garbage time points like the Denver game a few weeks ago, but Herbert's been playing phenomenally well. Obviously, you can't bench Herbert at this point just because you can't, right? Like he's on too much of a heater, and he had 281 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first game against the Chiefs. So, and obviously that was a much different defense at that time, but still. I don't love the matchup. I think you probably have to start him. You probably have to start Mahomes, I guess, because you took him in the second round, and I don't know if there's someone that on waivers you can scoop up, or unless maybe you have another quarterback.
Kirk Cousins is a viable start this week against the Bears.
Every week. Yeah.
Well, for fantasy, he's not, his stats aren't through the roof, but
he's
obviously,
a QB1 though. Like he's a top 10.
Yeah, but he's muddling, in between like 16, 20 fantasy points.
In our league, he is the 8th most fantasy points.
Right, but he's a quarterback.
Yeah, but I'm saying that means he's at least the top 8 quarterback.
Yeah, he's good. I've been starting him in one league. Obviously, it's like my only option at this point, but he does well enough to, he's not gonna have a game where he's got like 3 points.
Yeah. I mean, he's only had, I think, 3 games. Is it 4 games where he's had under 20 in our league at least, or no, 5 with that Pittsburgh game. But he's only had also in the same time 1 game with over 30.
Yeah.
Ironically against the Panthers, which I never saw coming. He had 373 and 3 touchdowns against the Panthers in that game. It was crazy. But yeah, if somehow Kirk Cousins is available, then
he's definitely a great start this week against the Bears. And actually, the Bears defense, or if you need a quarterback for the first week of playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. But anyways, I think you probably have to start Mahomes again. I really like Aaron Rodgers this week as well. I think that Rodgers against Baltimore, where they're good is against the run. So I think they're going to have to look at that and say, all right, we're going to have to put this in more of Rodgers' hands type of thing. So I like that. I kind of like Dak Prescott to bounce back this week a little bit. He seems to always play really well against the Giants. So I could see that. He had over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Giants in the first game, which was all the way back in week 5. The Giants defense is also one that's playing pretty well as of late. So, I mean, I still think Dak will get at least 20. So I think his floor is pretty safe. Brady against the Saints isn't the greatest matchup in the world on paper, but even when the Saints beat them the first time, he had like 370 and 4 touchdowns or something. So that's still obviously you're going to start him.
Here's a brain buster for you. If you have Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, who are you starting this week?
Man.
Even throughout the entire playoffs, Jalen Hurts is one of the guys on here that has one of the easiest fantasy football playoff schedules, matchups out of all QBs. I feel like he's got the football team, he's got the Giants, and then he's got the football team again.
Football team's a good defense, but I feel what you're saying.
I mean, they're essentially through 15 games, they're giving up the most fantasy points to the QB position.
Yeah,
and true. Jalen Hurts obviously has got some wheels on him, and he can get outside the pocket.
Because of what he can do with his legs, I would start Hurts, I think, because I think that makes his floor higher. I mean, he's only had, as I'm looking now, he's in our league, at least with our scoring, he's had, 3 games. Here's the problem, though. If I was to make a case against Hurts, he's only had 3 games with under 20 fantasy points, but they've come over his last 5 games. Mm-hmm. So 3 of 5 with under 20. But
and Mahomes, you got a tough matchup on the road against the Chargers.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Their pass D, obviously. The run D is horrible, but that doesn't have anything to do with Mahomes. It's his pass D. Derwin James is obviously a freaking animal. It's If you want to make a bold pick, you have all the right to start Jalen Hurts over Patrick Mahomes this week.
Yeah, but I don't think that I don't know. Maybe I don't know if a lot of people will have both those guys, but I guess it's possible. If you did take Mahomes in the second round and then came back and got Hurts in like the 9th or something like that, I think that's awesome. Mm-hmm. If you did, would you start Russell Wilson this week against the Rams?
Absolutely not,
dude. Every year, and this is Russ having a couple of good games in a row by the standard of how he's been playing. Every year, when we get to this point in the season, we're benching our 5th round pick, Russell Wilson. It's crazy, and people still do. And people will still take him in the 5th or 6th round next year. Watch it. It'll be like maybe next year it'll be 6th, 7th round or whatever. I'll be out on that again, and it's not because I don't think he's a great player. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah.
But he's also just, for fantasy especially, he's just not. He's not going to run as much anymore, and I think that really lowers his floor. And he's always been kind of an inconsistent guy. You just never know when he's going to have one of those stinker games, and I think those kill you, right? Like Hurts is having, at least he was until a few games ago. He was having like none of those types of games. He was having 25 fantasy points every single week. So, but yeah, I think Matt Stafford against the Seahawks is an all right matchup for this week. I have a bye in the league I have Stafford in, which is our league, but I'd start him.
Yeah, I think you're starting Jalen Hurts this week. You're starting Dak Prescott against the Giants, obviously.
Yeah.
Rodgers, like you said, against the Ravens is a great matchup. You're starting Aaron Rodgers every week. It doesn't fucking matter. He could be out there on one leg and you're starting him. He's just he's got gutsy, gritty. He's an OG. He's a future Hall of Famer, first ballot. Unanimous probably. But yeah, you're starting Rodgers.
He's
Kyler
going to
Murray.
get you at least 20. You know,
Kyler Murray is got some good matchups. The Lions, Indy, Dallas. Obviously, those last two.
Yeah, the Lions one's a great one, though. But I don't know about Joe Burrow this week either against Denver in Denver.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd start. I know he just had a great game against the Niners, but that's a Denver defense is playing out of their minds lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been like 2 months straight of Denver's defense just dominating teams. So I probably wouldn't start him. I mean, look what they did to Mahomes a couple weeks ago. Look what they did to poor Jared Goff last week.
Yeah.
They're a tough bunch.
Yeah,
and they're playing well now.
If you have Carson Wentz, it's going to be a tough sledding here.
I would not even consider starting him against Patriots. Under no circumstances would I start Carson Wentz. Yeah.
All playoffs. I mean, he's got the Patriots, then he's got the Cardinals, and then he's got Vegas. But if you're starting Wentz, I don't think you're going to make it to the fantasy football championship.
Yeah, maybe he's a streamer against Vegas, depending on what you're.
Maybe if your starter goes down, but if you make it, to the championship with one guy, you're not going to get cute and throw Wentz in there because of his matchup.
Yeah.
So I would stay away from Carson Wentz in the fantasy playoffs. Mac Jones, I think, also has a pretty tough sledding.
Yeah, I wouldn't
not starting him.
I think the Patriots will run the ball a whole lot against the Colts.
100%.
Like, Colts don't have very good run defense.
This is like the perfect, obviously the perfect time of year to run the ball. And if anyone's going to run the ball, it's going to be Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Yeah, he's not playing around. All right, let's go to running back.
Let's do it.
Just talk about them real quick.
Can we? Okay, well, first of all, Javonte Williams.
He's a stud, man.
He's going off. He's
finally doing
really well.
What I've been waiting for all year long. What a lot of people have been waiting for.
Yes, and he has one of the most favorable matchups in the fantasy football playoffs. He's got the Bengals this week. Then he's got Vegas, and then he's got the Chargers. Chargers, like we said, have a good pass D, but their run D is absolutely horrendous. So you're starting Javonte Williams each week for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's just become a must start. Over 20 fantasy points in each of the last 3 games, and the one with Melvin Gordon back didn't. I can't believe Gordon out-touched him, which is I heard that was going to happen. I think somebody told me that.
Right, but I feel like maybe they just kind of did that to give Javonte a little bit of a breather.
That's a good point because he did carry the full load each of the 2 weeks before.
And going in that game, they probably told him, look, you might have less carries than Melvin this week. Obviously, you're still our guy, but we want to keep you healthy and fresh and
he was
ready
coming
to
off
rock.
29 touches against the Chiefs, so it does make sense what you're saying. And but like I think that definitely against the Bengals, the Raiders, and then the Chargers, those are 3 pretty good matchups. But in any case, you're starting Javonte Williams as a must start now. Like he's no more. Like, for example, Alvin Kamara is playing the Bucks this week. I might really consider starting Javonte Williams over Kamara.
Yeah, but it's also tough to bench Kamara because he's all they have. He's literally all they have.
I know. Last week he had 31 touches in his first game back from injury.
Yeah.
And he went crazy. But that was against the Jets in a game where the Jets offense couldn't do anything,
right.
And it was just Kamara just methodically. I mean, look, I'm not advocating to bench Kamara here. I'm just saying it's a tough matchup against the Bucs defense, one of the best run defenses in the league, and but like. I don't love it, but I'm definitely starting Kamara no matter what, just to be clear. And then what do you do with Austin Eckler? It seems like
you start him.
He's going to play Thursday, and he's injured.
Well, they said he's fine.
I don't know, man. It caused them to miss the rest of the game.
Yeah, it caused them to miss the rest of the game because they didn't really need him at that point. I mean,
yeah, it didn't look good.
And it was late in the game.
It didn't look good. I was nervous as an Austin Eckler fantasy owner.
Well, I didn't make the playoffs in our league, so it doesn't really fucking matter to me.
You have him. That's right.
Yeah. Another guy that I love fantasy playoff matchup wise is your boy DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, if he plays, I mean,
he's playing. He's coming back. DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I guess he's been out for damn near a month now at this point.
It's been 3. He's missed 2 games, and the one game he got hurt super early. So technically, it's been.
And that was on Thanksgiving, that game. So it was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. But he's got the Cardinals this week, and then Atlanta and Seattle.
I love it.
Yeah, Atlanta gives up seventh most, and Seattle gives up the second most, obviously.
Yeah, I especially like him in
Arizona's a lot more tough sledding for DeAndre Swift this week. So
I like him in week 16 and 17, like you're saying.
100%.
Sure. Atlanta and Seattle.
He's
that's
a must start.
Juicy.
Must start matchups those 2 weeks.
That's going to be a huge part of my Super Bowl, my championship run in multiple leagues there.
You are on bye this week, so those are your 2
Works
matchups.
Out flawlessly for me
It
and
sure
our
does. So if DeAndre Swift doesn't play this week, well, then he's sitting on the couch like you are.
I would actually rather them not even play him.
Right, just to get another week healthy.
But I have him in another league too, and so I might need him. I don't know if I have a buy in that one.
But
regardless,
in any case, you're starting him.
He's,
if he's playing this week, you're starting him. A little tougher matchup than Atlanta and Seattle, but I think he's got a pretty good matchups for
what
the
do you do with
playoffs.
Saquon Barkley at this point? Like he got in the end zone last week against the Chargers. That was cool. It was a garbage time touchdown, but who cares, right? He did also carry it 16 times for 64 yards in what was a blowout for the majority of the game. But like, man, it's just tough to. He's got Dallas this week, and I guess if you have him, you're starting him. I don't know how you're going to bench him unless you've just been, very fortunate / active on waivers, and you've got all kinds of other running backs. But I think. I don't know. Dallas, that's a tough. He got hurt in the first Dallas game, so he got hurt right at the beginning of that game, so we couldn't really see, anything from him there. And I almost wish like if he didn't get hurt in that Dallas game, and then if I think it was Kenny Golladay got hurt or somebody else at receiver got hurt in that Dallas game, because that was right after the Giants offense came alive and they beat New Orleans in New Orleans when New Orleans was good.
Right.
And then the injuries happened against Dallas, and then it was just like after that, the Giants basically fell off the rails offensively for ever since then. They scored 20 points in that Dallas game. I think it was Daniel Jones got hurt in that game. But then it was 11. Then, they beat the Panthers, whatever. Then it was 17 points, 23-10, 13-9. Just they don't score points, and it's very difficult to like volume is an overrated thing if the offense is terrible. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, for example, Clyde had like 9 carries last week, but he got in the end zone twice because the offense was good in that particular game. And Saquon is a guy that, he might touch it 18, 22 times a game, but it might be for 40 yards or something. You know what I mean? It's not. But, I guess you have to start him. I wouldn't – if you do have some guys on waivers that you picked up, or maybe you just took some running backs a little later that have panned out, I wouldn't fault you for benching him, honestly. Dallas is not a team that's going to get – they don't typically give up a bunch of fantasy points to running backs, so that's tough. Leonard Fournette's been going completely insane. He's got a matchup this week against the Saints. What do you do there? You're starting him, right?
100%, dude. This guy is playing out of his mind. It's December Lenny. It's playoff Lenny. Let's go.
It's true. Yeah, he's been going crazy. Like
he's got the Saints this week, and then he's got Carolina and the Jets.
Oh, I love those 2 matchups for sure. But even against a very good Buffalo defense, he goes 19 for 113 and a touchdown, and then caught 4 more. So, they only went for 19 yards, but who gives a damn? The guy has been going crazy lately. So, Leonard Fournette and James Conner, in my opinion, are must. I think that even James Conner, even if Chase Edmonds comes back next week, James Conner 1,000% must start. Like the guy's playing out of his mind. He's like back to the first year when Le'Veon Bell held out. He's playing like that James Conner. Remember when everybody was like, dude, Conner's better than Bell. But he's catching the ball. He's scoring touchdowns. It's like, I can't remember last night they said 7 straight games with a touchdown or something. He had 9 catches for 94 yards last night.
It's incredible.
He is a legitimate, an RB, high in RB2, I think, at worst, every week here on out, from here on out. So, and that's what he's been for the last several weeks. So, I like the idea of, he's basically a must start, in my opinion.
Another guy that I like for the fantasy playoffs is David Montgomery.
Okay.
He's got great matchups. Maybe, not great. Okay, so maybe good matchups. His first one, he's got Minnesota. Then he's got Seattle and the Giants. So I think the toughest one obviously would be Minnesota. But then Seattle and New York, those are great.
I think those are all great matchups.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like, Yeah. I mean, Seattle, it's weird. I see they give up the second most points to running backs, but their defense is like one of the best run defenses in the NFL. So that must just be, I don't know, guys. Running backs must catch the football pretty well against them, but that's something David Montgomery can definitely do. So
yeah, I mean, Minnesota obviously is, I think, is in the middle of the pack as far as run D. They give up the 11th most fantasy points, and then Seattle, obviously, like you said, the second, and then the Giants are giving up the 8th most. Obviously, David Montgomery is now healthy. It's just a matter of, if what the Bears offense can do and what Justin Fields can do. Last 3 games, David's had 10, 28, 14, 17 carries, 21 carries. Only had 10 this week. Obviously, the game script against them, they just got walloped against the Packers. And then, of course, one of their offensive possessions was taken away by the punt return.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Minnesota, Seattle, New York, I think those are 2 or 3 great matchups for David Montgomery in the playoffs.
You know who I like Montgomery too, but you know who I really like as kind of a guy that you might not be thrilled if you have him on your roster right now? I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a whole lot in terms of this
I have
Thursday.
him in a bunch of leagues.
Yeah.
And he's, he killed me, obviously, all year because he's been freaking hurt.
Yeah.
But now he's back, and he's playing really well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's had, in our league at least, 15.6. In his first game back, he had 15.6 against Dallas, PPR points. Then he had 11.2 against Denver, which is not an easy matchup at all. And then 19.2 against the Raiders. So he's been
he actually has great matchups. I completely missed this one. Obviously, the Chargers are the worst.
Yeah. And then the Steelers have been getting destroyed. Dalvin Cook went like 27 for 205.
Yeah, speaking of that.
What the hell, dude?
We were like, do we start him this week? Do we not? And then, of course.
I addressed that on a recent podcast this week. I said, from now on, I will never question Dalvin Cook again.
Yeah, he's an animal.
I mean, dude, what the hell? Like, I knew that was possible, but I just felt like it was too risky just because he could get hurt again or something, But the guy his ceiling is just too big to even acknowledge the floor. If he's playing, you just have to start him.
Yeah.
So my bad on that, guys. But
yeah, Edwards-Helaire,
he's
great fantasy matchups.
Perfect matchups.
Yeah.
Especially the next 2 weeks. Like the Cincinnati 100%. One is not as juicy, but like the Pittsburgh and
it's
Chargers,
still a good matchup.
Yeah, it's not bad, but yeah, I mean, I think that Clyde is gonna. We took him in the 3rd round. We were hoping for RB1 level production at best, or high-end RB2. He hasn't really been that, but I think Clyde is going to finish that way. If you've managed to draft him and then hold on to him until now, I think you're about to get rewarded for your sacrifice. What do you think about Elijah Mitchell? You trusting him to finish the season strong? He's got, let's see.
If he's healthy?
He's playing, well, I think he should be back this week. Jeff Wilson shit the bed in his effort to earn more playing time, and they really didn't have anybody step up in that regard. So he's got Atlanta this week. He's got Tennessee, and then he's got Houston. So
great matchups, I think
Tennessee's on paper they
give up the second fewest.
Yeah,
but
still he's the Niners feature back, so I think he's basically matchup proof as long as, like you said, he's healthy. But we're not going to know. We're just going to have to. If he's playing.
The last 3 games that he played, he got 27 carries, 22 carries.
Yeah, he's there.
He's definitely their guy.
Back. Yeah, yes. 1,000%.
And obviously, you're starting him this week against the Falcons. Tennessee, like you said, on paper, they're really good. Run D. And then he's got Houston, who obviously has had like 3 shutouts this year, I think.
Yeah, they get shut out a lot.
Yeah, I think they're known for that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
but yeah, I definitely do like the even if Eli Mitchell's out, I do like the 49ers running back situation for the playoffs, just based on matchups solely.
Yeah. So somebody that I'm not sure what to do with because he has 3.9 points over the last 2 weeks combined is James Robinson. I don't know what's going on there, but to me. It seems like Urban Meyer feels like he has a much longer leash than everybody else thinks he should have.
I can't stand that guy.
I can't either. He's such an entitled little prick. Just the way he comes off. Like, do you hear him saying like to the coaches, "I'm a
Oh, yeah.
winner. What have you guys ever done? Tell me about how you're a winner." Like,
Right. Yeah, he's
that is
he's
awful,
basically
dude.
a piece of shit, honestly. He needs to go back to college. He's not made out for the NFL.
Yeah, he's not.
He's really not.
And James
He
Robinson.
he thinks he's here and he's like down here.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? All because he had Tim Tebow. Let's be real here. Tim Tebow wasn't in Florida all these years. Urban Meyer would be shit. He wouldn't even have the reputation he has right now.
Yeah, well, he's always had just a gigantic competitive advantage talent-wise.
Right, of course. And then he goes to Ohio State. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm sick. I'm taking time off. I'm retiring because of health issues. Bullshit. He knew Florida was going to be absolute garbage. And then he saw a golden opportunity to go into Ohio State, who is highly recruited every year.
Yeah.
Had great success there. And then he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'll just take my talents to the fucking NFL. And I'm so happy.
Well, he thought it would be the same. Like, oh, I'm just such a great eye for talent. Like, no, dude, it's much easier to know that 5-star recruits are likely to be good college players.
Right.
It's a whole different animal when you are having to play within the same rule set of everyone else.
Right.
And salary cap.
Essentially, a lot of the college football players are terrible compared to all the ones that make it in the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's a lot easier to say an elite college, a high school player will probably be good in college, but it's a whole different animal that next.
Yes,
jump.
it is. And he thought he could come in and
dude,
run supreme. But
when you have a program like that, it's a
pisses me
stacked
off.
deck. It's a stacked deck. You're playing. It's a cheat. Like, you're probably, if you're winning like that because you got all these 5-star recruits, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good coach. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Like Nick Saban is, because he went there and built that himself. Urban just went over there and took advantage of a situation largely.
Yeah, but back to James Robinson. Obviously, he's got Houston and then the Jets. I maybe feel comfortable starting him in one of those games, but then again, it's like, what the fuck is, it's the Jaguars. They're so bad. It's like, can you start anybody on their team?
No, I don't think so. Like, look, here's the thing. Robinson had 6 carries for 4 yards last week against Titans. He played 65% of the snaps. So it wasn't like he wasn't playing. It's just they didn't target him once, and he ran 6 times for 4 yards. So the week before, and that was after Trevor Lawrence came out the week before saying he needs more touches.
Yeah.
Then the week before, when Lawrence said that, he had 8 carries for 24 yards against the Rams, caught 1 pass for 11, was targeted 4 times in that one. But, I mean, it was just, he has Houston and the Jets, and those are juicy matchups and all that stuff. Of course, week 17.
But you can't trust their offense. That's the whole issue,
If
If they were a compatible or, a offense that could actually move the ball and had, good flow, then yeah, of course you want to start him in those juicy matchups. But when you see him playing like he is, you see the Jags as a team playing like they are. I mean, tough sledding for James Robinson in the fantasy playoffs.
Robinson has in this season has 3 games over 20 points in PPR scoring.
Not good,
and hasn't had one since week 5.
Right.
So it's not been, it hasn't been the most reliable. Like, his floor is like 4 or 5 points. That's like kind of like what a realistic floor expectation for him is. Let's see.
Well, someone I'm staying away from is Josh Jacobs. He's got.
Oh yeah, I've been staying away from him all year. He's actually been a little bit better as of late than.
Yeah, but he's got tough matchups coming in the playoffs. He's got Cleveland, Denver, and then Indy.
Oof. Well, Indy can be run on, but
by Josh Jacobs and the Raiders,
probably not.
Yeah,
you're right. I don't trust Josh Jacobs. I mean, if you have him at this point, you're probably gonna have to start him in some cases, but
it just depends on like who else, how deep you are. But yeah, it might be tough sledding for Josh.
Najee Harris gonna have his hands full these next 3 weeks too in the playoffs, where he's got Tennessee, at Kansas City, and Cleveland. Those are all 3 pretty tough matchups. I mean, it is what it is. You're gonna start them, but they're not great on paper matchups. And then Joe Mixon as well. Holy shit! At Denver this week, Baltimore next week, Kansas City the week after. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean,
he had those matchups.
He had a rough game against the 49ers this week. So
yeah,
that's tough matchups for Joe Mixon owners. I'm sorry for you. But it is what it is. And if you have to roll with them because you have no one else, well then
he's going to get volume, and their offense isn't bad. So
Yeah.
it's just from that angle alone, you have to play him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's just it. It's not. It doesn't look good on paper, but there's plenty of times where something doesn't look good on. Like last week, Leonard Fournette didn't look good on paper against the Bills. They don't typically give up a bunch of points to running backs, and he went completely insane. So yeah. He had like, what do you have, 120 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. So
another I would say guy, but I have to say guys because the Patriots love to just get everyone involved. But the Patriots running backs have, obviously they have Indy this week, so that's their toughest one that they're gonna get.
Is Damian Harris hurt? Didn't he get hurt at the end of that?
No, I don't
during
think
that
so.
Buffalo game?
I don't think so. I think he's.
No, he had a hamstring injury. He.
Oh yeah, he did suffer a
came out.
hamstring injury.
Yeah. He on the long. I think it was like on, or it wasn't. on a
Okay,
long
so
touchdown, but
obviously if Damian Harris is out, then you have Ramondre. They're gonna run the fucking ball.
Yeah, definitely that.
They have,
And if Harris is healthy, he had the bye week now to hopefully heal up. I'm sure Belichick's pissed about them playing on Saturday. He's probably like, what the fuck? Why, like, just for your stupid ass ratings, you got my team playing.
You know what's funny is when I called Leonard Fournette a must start of the week
I
this
thought
week.
you were saying you called him. I was like,
no, yeah, I hit him up.
ring.
I hit him up on the DL. But that stat that I got from the fantasy footballers was that 60% of the touchdowns that the Bills give up are on the ground, and then we saw Lenny bust that run.
Yeah.
Man, that was
first touchdown of the game. That was a big dude. He's getting really good at football now.
Yeah.
Like he was a late bloomer, I guess, because they tried to force feed him because they drafted him 4th overall right in the beginning of his career. But lately, his ability, just his vision and instincts as a runner in the tackle box is beautiful, man. He's patient and he's decisive.
Right.
He's playing the best football of his career by far.
But to my point,
yeah.
Damon Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, whoever the hell it is, they got Buffalo next week, and then they got Jacksonville. So they have great matchups, well, good matchups. I wouldn't say great because they got Indy this week, who is good on paper. They're the ranked 31 in the league against, the run. So
what are you saying? They're not great, but they don't give up a lot of fantasy points against the run, or to running backs, which is kind of weird. But
yeah.
In any case, it's a great matchup this week, regardless of what that says. And then Buffalo, we all saw the Patriots can run on Buffalo. So yeah, you're right. And then Jacksonville. Those are
yeah. I do like the Patriots running back situation for the playoffs.
I agree. You just gotta. Those guys are gonna get the ball. I think Ramondre Stevenson showed in that game that he can be relied on to just be a really good running back. Just a guy you can give the ball 12 to 17 times to, somewhere in that range, and he's gonna return value on that. I think that Javonte Freeman is a really good play this week. The guy's been good for a while now. Like, even against Cleveland, which is not a great matchup, he had 13 carries for 64 yards. And against Green Bay, like I mentioned, if Lamar Jackson is immobilized to any degree, they're going to have to run the ball, and they need to win that game. So they're going to have a nice little plan in terms of how to attack the Packers on the ground. And while Green Bay's better against the run this year than they have been in previous years, I think still that's an area where Baltimore can probably find some success. And then the next week after that, they play Cincy and then the Rams, which aren't great matchups, but they're not bad matchups either.
Right.
So I think Devontae Freeman's just to fire him up the rest of the way, man. Get him in there and rolling.
All right. Do you want to get to the receivers here?
Yeah, let's talk some receivers. Let's do that.
Okay, well, the first one that I'm going to throw out there is Jalen Waddle.
Wow, you've been loving Waddle all year long.
This guy is a fantasy machine. You put him on any other, like a good team, and he's even better than he is right now with Tua. Obviously,
with a guy that can throw the ball down the field, like with Justin Herbert.
The guy's getting 40 targets.
Like imagine Jalen Waddle in the Chargers offense.
Yeah, imagine him in the Bucs offense.
Yeah, that'd be sexy. But they just have too many damn.
Imagine him in the Rams offense. He's Cooper Kupp. If you put him in there.
I mean, look at Odell going from Cleveland, where he was just like couldn't find a completion.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in LA and he's doing his thing. He's scoring touchdowns,
But Jalen Waddle,
big plays.
Back to my boy Jalen Waddle. He's got the Jets.
Okay.
And then he's got the Saints and then Tennessee. So, great matchups, I think. The Jets here are giving, it says here they're giving up the 7th fewest fantasy points, but at the end of the day,
that's because they're getting
Jets.
blown out all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said.
Yeah, most of the time.
We don't need to throw that many times against you guys.
The Saints give up 6 most fantasy points to the wide receivers, and then the Titans give up the 2nd. So I think they're great. They're great matchups for Jalen. Obviously, the last 3 games, 11 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets. This guy's an animal, and he damn near catches almost all of them. Yeah. Last 6 games, efficient. 12. These are targets: 12, 10, 6, 9, 10, 11.
Wow.
I mean, you cannot bench a guy like this.
Yeah.
Especially
he's legitimately a must start the rest of the way.
100%. 100%. I should have traded for this guy. And I'm pissed off that I didn't because
someone dropped him in our league early on.
I don't even talk about Bone has him now. So look. Middle of this fantasy season, and if you think you're a good team and you think you're gonna make the playoffs, that's when you need to start, trading for playoff matchups, right? Because of things like this. For instance, Jalen Waddle, perfect example. He's got the Jets, Saints, Titans. So I think he's a fantastic start, must start all the way through the fantasy playoffs. And if you have him, be excited.
Yeah, I think that I was really pleasantly surprised to see Deebo Samuel come back a week earlier than I thought he probably would. Mm-hmm. And Deebo this week, now that I know that he's relatively healthy enough to touch the ball 10 times like he did, he's got Atlanta this week. Mm-hmm. He goes at Tennessee and then Houston. Those are the juiciest. My playoff matchups are looking so good in our league.
I mean, Deebo Samuel is an absolute animal. I feel like he's a running back at this point. I mean,
he's whatever he needs to be on any given week. That's the cool part.
Yeah, Shanahan's like, look, we're going to do this week, and you're going to do this week. He's like, put me in, coach.
Yeah, he's like, I don't give a damn. I'm a football player.
Yeah, he's a beast. Like you said, Atlanta, Tennessee, Houston are his matchups. Great matchups for Deebo. If you have Deebo, he's a must start.
Man, Javonte Adams has got some juicy ones too. At Baltimore, then Cleveland. Maybe not the greatest ever, but then against Minnesota in Green Bay. Oh my God.
I mean, if you just look at what he's done all season, I think he's matchup proof regardless.
Yeah, so that when he has favorable matchups,
he goes bonkers.
It's just even crazier. Stephon Diggs aren't the greatest. Diggs has Carolina this week, then he at New England, but then Atlanta. So if you make it through all that, you get to go unleash Diggs against the Falcons. But he's probably going to see AJ Terrell. I don't think none of those are really great matchups. But again, that's the problem. Like, you're going to have to start him. You know what I mean?
As far another guy that I like as far as matchup wise is Devontae Smith, Washington, New York, Washington, but obviously Philly's a run heavy team, so it's a tough thing for Devontae Smith. But obviously, if they're throwing the ball against these guys, he has good matchups,
and he's still their top receiver. So there's that. But who doesn't have good matchups? It's another rookie. Jamar Chase at Denver, Baltimore. He did go crazy against them earlier in the year, and then Kansas City.
Yeah, I just feel like those aren't the best matchups, but obviously his volume is going to be there, so it's like the only thing that you kind of have to like go off of. Like, you're not starting or benching him, right? Like, should I bench him one of those weeks for Michael Pittman, because I have them both, and
man. Maybe this
week.
But
we just talked about Wentz and his fantasy matchups. Like, he has a tough sledding ahead of him. Obviously, Michael Pittman plays on the same team,
right.
So
yeah, but Pittman doesn't, like, Wentz can have success when throwing to Pittman,
right?
But I don't think he's gonna have a bunch of success.
I mean, that's all Pittman needs. Pittman's kind of cooled down here in the last few weeks, I think. But Jamar Chase, obviously polarizing player. Could be offensive rookie of the year. Probably not.
Mac's going to be, but he's going to be
Mac
second.
Wasn't there. If Mac was not there.
Yeah, he's second for sure.
Exactly. So Volume, talent, it's there. It's just the matchups are pretty rough.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And let me see. So, what do you think about how's Odell looking the rest of the way? Because what do we make of him at this point? Like, I think he's probably a must start or very close.
Yeah, I'd say he's high, wide receiver 2, low wide receiver 1 at this point. I mean, he's not getting a ton of targets each game.
You're that high on him? Like, he's potentially a wide receiver 1?
Low end.
So a top 10, top 12
Yeah,
guy?
I mean, he's gonna give you
that.
He's gonna give you, what's his floor? I think his
I'd say
floor
he's a
is
mid to high wide receiver 2, probably somewhere.
I think his floor is like 12, 13.
Yeah, probably so.
So, that's pretty damn good. Well, not
Or
pretty
like
damn good, but
the lower end of what you should expect. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
And
so he's got Seattle, then he's got Minnesota, which is going to be, man, that's a juicy matchup, and then Baltimore. So I think those are 3 pretty good matchups for him in particular, and he's done well since joining the Rams. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. It's just a better fit for him. It's not because Baker Mayfield sucks. It's not that. It's because this is a better fit for Odell's particular skill set.
Right.
And Sean McVay, the way he can scheme it up in the pass game is just, you see Odell just being wide open. And they got Cooper Kupp, who's having like a Calvin Johnson-like productive season. So defenses are going to pay more attention to Cooper Kupp, and then that puts Odell in a whole new position of like where he can just beat up on, secondary looks and stuff like that. So, yeah, I love Odell.
Another guy I like, obviously he's a must start. You're not benching him at this point, is Deontay Johnson. He's got, he's got Tennessee this week. Great matchup on paper. They're giving up the second most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So he's obviously a must start this week. Next week, not so much against the Chiefs, who's playing out of their freaking minds right now. But then he's got Cleveland in the championship. So you're not benching this guy. If you have Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, you just got to start him.
It's just volume alone.
You know what
I mean, look at this. I just realized this last 7 games. 13 these targets. 13, 6, 13, 13, 14, 11, 10.
He's always open.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Like,
I mean, yeah, he catches half of them most of the time. Maybe a little bit more in some games than not, but this guy is a freak, dude. I mean, he always finds a way to get open. I think that's what this guy does. And I like him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like him as a, like, let me ask you this. Who would you rather have if for the next 3 weeks, him or Odell?
Him, 100%. I would have rather have him over Jamar Chase.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
With looking at Jamar Chase's matchups, I would definitely rather.
I would rather have Deontay Johnson over DeAndre Hopkins.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy is just a freak. I mean, he's an absolute animal.
Who is DeAndre Hopkins?
And damn well Big Ben's, not going to return next season. So he's like, fuck it. I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to give it to my guy.
Throwing to Deontay. Yeah, I mean, that's who he feels comfortable throwing to because,
100%.
like I said, I'm joking, but I'm also being serious. Like, Deontay Johnson's always open.
He really is.
He's just, like, if you're going to cover him one-on-one.
You're going to get beat.
You're getting beat, yeah, for sure. I mean,
his route running skills.
Too good of a route runner.
Yes, his route running skills are just asinine. Just over the top. He's a great polarizing player. So, yeah, if you have Deontay Johnson, feel comfortable starting him all playoffs.
I'm with you there. And then what about Mike? So Mike Evans.
I love their matchups.
I never thought he could be so consistent. It's unbelievably consistent, dude.
He's had
but last year he was like had many games or like 4, 5, 6 games.
How many yards did he have last year? Over 1,000. He's had over 1,000 his entire career, I believe. Every year.
Yeah.
He's as consistent as it comes. Obviously,
this year he's as consistent as it comes.
Right. I mean, he's a touchdown machine. How many touchdowns does he have this year?
It's like he catches one every week. I don't know. It's like I feel like every week when I'm looking at stats, he has 90 yards and a touchdown. Like, it seems like every
he's a beast.
week.
He's a beast. Chris Godwin too. I mean, they have great matchups going into the playoffs.
Dude.
They got the Saints this week who go up the 6th most. They get Carolina and then the Jets. So
Carolina has nobody that can. Well, Stephon Gilmore, I guess, can physically match up with him. But yeah, it's At this point, he's just a must start.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Carolina and they have great secondary, but it's like when you play guys like against, like the Bucks, it's gonna be a tough sledding. Yeah, obviously they're gonna be better than most teams because they're not going against Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. But on paper, the Panthers give up the 5th fewest points to the wide receiver position, but then again, they're playing the Bucks, who are just, the Bucks.
Yeah, I think that, dude, it's weird. Stephon Gilmore's only playing like 50, 60% of the snaps. I don't know exactly what are they doing. I don't maybe
they just don't feel fully confident in him knowing the playbook, but then again, you have to like rely on his instincts at that point.
It's just that he just has to know one, like, he should be able to play every snap right away. So I don't think it's that. Maybe just he's not fully healthy or whatever. I don't know. But it's weird to trade for him in the middle. Dude, the Panthers went from like being a team that was thought of to just be a guaranteed playoff team to now it's like it's really gotten ugly.
Well, yeah. I mean, they lose, C-Mac for the year, so that doesn't help their cause.
I don't think it has.
Cam Newton's not been playing well.
I mean, it has definitely something to do with that, but not like anything crazy. I don't know. Let's talk some tight ends before we wrap this thing up. Yeah.
Well, we got defense too. We got to play those defensive matchups because there's a lot of streamers that you guys will like. But yeah.
But okay, so dude, Rob Gronkowski's another one that's been so consistent. Like, every of all the games he's played, he's only had one game with under 10 points, and that was a game where he had 9.5 against the Rams. So even then he had 4 for 55. It wasn't like a bad game. He's just If you grabbed him, see, this is why I love taking guys like Gronk or whoever you like in that 7th to 9th round range, because you end up a lot of times you find somebody like him. And George Kittle's coming alive.
I was literally about to say that. This guy is going.
And he's got great matchups the rest of the way.
Yes,
too.
He's got the Falcons, the Titans, and then the Texans. This guy has been eating.
Yeah, he might justify where you drafted him just solely because of what he might do on your playoff run.
Yes.
If you
made the playoffs with Kittle being hurt all year, and you have him at your expense,
you have a
here,
competitive advantage.
Oh my God, this guy! It's George Kittle. Obviously, going in the season, you drafted him high. You knew he like the polarizing player that he is. He's just a fucking freak.
Yeah,
and healthy, playing out of his mind, going into the playoffs. Great matchups. Ooh, I'm jealous of you guys that have Kittle.
Yeah, for sure. At this point, like you said, I think he's a ginormous advantage for your team, especially like you said, if they made it to the playoffs with him not being able to produce basically the whole year until recently. So, I like Dawson Knox a lot, man. I think that he had a game that really, if you don't even count the Patriot game because of the weather, he's been awesome since in Week 11 he had 14 PPR points. Week 12 he had 18.2, and then against Tampa this past week he had another 19. So he's a guy. Buffalo just loves throwing the ball so much. So I mean, it's Dawson Knox has, in my opinion, become someone I didn't expect this from, but he's basically their third option in the passing game. It's like Diggs, Beasley, Knox, or maybe Sanders. I don't know.
I think I just feel like Josh Allen has a good rapport with him. He trusts him.
And he's a dynamic athlete. He's a pretty good athlete. Yeah. He's fast.
Yeah,
explosive.
He's got Carolina this week. Obviously, he's got New England next week, who give up the fewest to the tight end position.
They give it to the fewest to every position, though.
And
then he finishes with Atlanta. That should be fun.
At home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that. For a tight end play for your fantasy football playoffs. I mean, he's playing really well right now. And like you said, he's their third, maybe second option.
Yeah, I mean, some weeks he's been that. Some weeks he's been the second, but he's at least the third option.
Another guy that I think that is a must-start tight end-wise is Mark Andrews. It doesn't matter about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson got hurt. Guess what Mark Andrews does?
Caught a touchdown. I know.
Guess what else he does? He has 11 targets.
Wow, caught all 11
Caught
of them, too.
All 11 of them for 115 yards and a touchdown. Obviously.
Yeah, he's had a great last month and a half, 2 months.
when it comes to the quarterback, especially backup quarterbacks, their safety blanket is either they're tight end or they're running backs out of the backfield. Because if they don't feel confident throwing it down the field, you have a tight end there. And if you have a polarizing player like Mark Andrews, and he's got Green Bay this week, a little tougher matchup. Then he's got Cincy championship. He's got the Rams, but you can't bench this guy.
No,
he doesn't have the greatest matchups for his fantasy playoffs, and that's what we're talking about here is the guys that have the best and the worst. But this guy kind of has middle of the pack, but he's still like that player that you can't bench going into the playoffs. I mean, the last 6 games, he's got 10, 8, 10, 10, 9, 11 targets. So you're not benching him one bit in the playoffs, and you roll with him. And, I have him in a bunch of leagues, and I'm counting on him. So let's go Mark Andrews.
Yeah, he's a stud. I think that if you guys are still, which I know at least some of you still are at this point, are low on tight end, or you don't have a tight end that you feel super comfortable about, I think maybe for waivers, just grab, you could probably do it for free, or maybe for, if it's a late waiver position or a very small amount of fab, I would grab Brevin Jordan right now. I think that he's a guy that in the first start back for Davis Mills against Seattle, he targeted this guy 7 times. He caught 4 of them for just 26 yards, but he caught a touchdown. And I think they're going to probably not get shut out anymore in Houston, right? So he's a rookie. It makes sense for a rookie to finish the season strong, especially when he was targeted 7 times by Davis Mills. And back in Davis Mills' last game, he caught a touchdown in that one too. So without Mills for those 3 weeks or whatever it was, he didn't do much. But now Davis Mills comes back, and he's immediately targeting him again 7 times, catches another touchdown. So for somebody just to pick up for basically nothing, I think that he makes sense, and he's got pretty decent matchups the rest of the way too. By the way, he's got some good matchups, so I like him. And man, tight end is so tough, right? Because
that's not a deep.
Never.
Yeah, it's not a deep position. Obviously, you got your boy Kittle, you got your boy Gronk, you got Travis Kelce,
but it's always deep. Cheaper, like late in drafts, or like there's always depth there in guys that a lot of times a guy that you draft in the 6th round, like Darren Waller this year, has been largely disappointing. You can get more value at it. I can name 5, 6, 7 tight ends right now that have given me at least close to as much, if not more value than what you got from Waller, and you drafted him way earlier. So that's the shtick there, and why I'm the way I am with tight ends.
I mean, Hunter Henry has, like 10 points less than Darren Waller. Think about that.
Yeah.
You would figure Darren Waller would be, top of the food chain when it comes to fantasy points, especially for tight ends. But yeah, like you said, he's been pretty disappointing this year. Obviously, he's had some injuries and he's been out a couple games. But then again, it also goes back to the team as a whole, their quarterback, the whole situation that's going on in Vegas. So, but he's missed the last 2 games. This is a guy that has some pretty good matchups for the playoffs. He's got Cleveland this week, who gave up the 10th most fantasy points. Then he's got Denver, who's obviously playing well right now. So a little tougher. And then he's got Indy. But I think like we said, you guys went in this season. Darren Waller.
Oh, okay.
You went in this season, drafted him high because obviously he's that guy. You know what I mean? He can make the plays.
Talented.
Yeah, he's super talented. So obviously not the greatest matchups, but I think if he's missed the last 2 games, if he comes back fully healthy, we know
I feel like
we know Derek Carr loves this guy, so he's gonna get the volume. And you want to hope that he does because, like we said, you drafted him super high. And if you're in the playoffs and you have Darren Waller, you're like, fuck, I need this guy to finally produce for me because it's win or go home.
It's tough though because I feel like the Raiders are really falling off the rails. Like that loss to the Chiefs, the 48-9 just beat down, which by the way was Scorigami, first one of that first 48-9 score, I think. Anyways, they're just, I feel like they are falling completely off the rails. So they make me nervous. But
their only bright spot is Darren Waller.
No, Hunter Renfro's
Well,
far more.
yeah, that guy's
Because a monster. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely starting him most likely because I doubt you have somebody else.
okay.
But
But what about so what about him in the playoffs?
who?
Renfro.
I love him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
and he's got
basically
tough matchups, but this guy is just
well. The thing is with the position that he is, right? Like just being that slot receiver, the tougher the matchups typically mean like the outside corners are very good, right? So he's inside just beating up on whoever is like, and plus we saw him against James Bradbury, against a lot of these, high level outside corners. They can't guard him in one-on-one situations. And what did he do? I think it was this week. He caught their only touchdown this week against, it was like Shavarius Ward or one of their good corners there in Kansas City, because they have really good outside corners, and he just abused this guy and caught a touchdown. But as for tight ends, I like Zach Ertz. I think that Zach Ertz has some pretty good matchups: Detroit, Indy, Dallas, and I think that he's a guy that has a pretty stable role. I know he had that one game against Chicago was pretty rough, right? But that was a game where Kyler barely threw the ball. It was like 19 attempts or something crazy like that. I think that Zach Ertz largely will be even last night, right? He was targeted 7 times, caught 5 for 42 yards. Not a great game, but just someone that presents that type of floor, right, which is almost 10 points, and someone that also we know he can score 20-plus points in any given week. So I think he's someone that you like if you have him, you probably also have another option. I would probably lean in that event, lean in favor of Ertz there. So, but I mean, other than that, like Kyle Pitts, it's not great matchups. It's San Francisco, Detroit. Detroit's a good matchup, and then you got at Buffalo to finish the season or to finish the fantasy season. I don't love those matchups.
I think he's got a potential to maybe go off this week. But other than that, it's hard to trust Kyle Pitts, especially at this point in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Based on his production alone throughout the first 14 weeks.
Right. And then hopefully Hawkinson comes back because, somebody that you drafted pretty high, probably like 5th, 6th round. And
his
matchups aren't terrible.
No.
Arizona, Atlanta, Seattle. I like the 16 and 17 weeks matchups. So
100%. Obviously better than Arizona. So, I would almost chalk him up as having pretty good matchups going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
If he's playing, I think you're starting him.
Yeah. You want to
Another
some go ahead.
One more guy.
Yeah.
Streamer this week. Mike Gesicki, your boy.
Oh, my boy, yeah.
Yeah.
I still have him.
And then he's got the Jets, and then he's got the Saints, and then he's got the Titans. So
this week he's a good option.
100% good option. If you're desperate at tight end this week, and say you're in a 10-team league, this is the last week before the playoffs start, and you need a tight end, I think he's a great streaming option.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to start him over Dalton Schultz this week.
100%. Dalton Schultz has been a disappointment
lately. Yeah.
Lately.
You want to talk some defenses?
Let's do it.
So I really like, and it pains me to say this, but I like the Buffalo Bills defense for this week, at least against the Panthers, right?
Again,
and then against the Falcons in Week 17. Yes. I definitely like that.
Yeah, they're the one in between the Patriots.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's going to be a tough one there, but then again,
I mean, the Patriots just aren't going to they may not score a ton of points, but they're probably not going to give them a bunch of turnovers either.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the Bills have a great playoff schedule. The Bucks
are someone that you need to, if they're available, and I know this week you might say, well, New Orleans, that's not the greatest. I think this week is a good matchup for them. I think that the Panthers the next week and then the Jets the next week. Are you kidding? Like Tampa,
you're not benching them.
They're going to finish the season very strong on the defensive side of the ball. Well, all over. But yes, also defensively.
I think the 49ers have pretty good playoff matchups. They got Atlanta, then they got Tennessee, and then they got Houston. So those two alone.
I love all three. I love all three.
Yeah, I mean, especially without Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill obviously isn't, a star, Obviously, he'll do the things to win a game, but
they scored 20 points against the Jets. Like
he has the potential to throw a pick six against the Niners.
Yeah, he has the potential to be held under 20 points as well in terms of like they can't score. They're really having a hard time scoring points. So
yeah, I like the 49ers definitely playoff schedules. Another team that I like are the Eagles. You know, they got the Redskins, the football team, they got the Giants, and they got the football team again.
Wait, you said the Redskins.
I know, and then I meant, you know,
the football team, the Giants, and then the football team.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Redskins, aka the football team.
Yeah.
Or the football. Yeah.
You get the point.
Yes, but yeah, I think they got great matchups going in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that let me see here.
One of the
The
worst.
Dolphins, bro. The Dolphins have the Jets this week. They're going to annihilate them.
Yes, they're okay. There is a perfect streaming option this week if you need defense. 100%. If you haven't picked up Miami yet, I don't know where the hell you're thinking. I picked them up last week on their bye for free agent.
And because they have the Saints after that.
Yeah.
And this team's won 5 in a row. They're one game out of the playoffs in the AFC. They're
fighting.
They're fighting
right
for their whole shit. Yeah. So then they play the Saints and then they play the Titans. So that's how they finish the season. Jets, Saints, Titans. I think all 3 of those weeks are startable weeks.
Yeah.
For Miami's defense, for sure. I like them.
One of the worst playoff schedules for defenses is the Ravens. They got the Pack, and then they got Cincy, and then they got the Rams. So if you have Ravens defense, stay away.
Yeah.
There's better options. Like we just said, if you have the Ravens, they're playing the Packers this week. You're not playing them. If Miami Dolphins defense is out there, spend the rest of your confab to pick them up, because if you're fighting for, you know, a spot in 10-team league to make the playoffs this week, or it's your first week and you want to get a huge upset, start the Miami defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, if you're desperate, like if there's everybody's being weird and there's not a ton of defenses available that you like, dude, Jacksonville's is not bad for the next 2 weeks.
I know. And I saw that, and I was going to say that, but it's tough.
Houston.
To just go out there and roll with them. Yes.
They play Houston in Jacksonville, and then they play the Jets.
Obviously.
Literally the worst 2 offenses in football.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least right around there, right? So, and plus the Jags defense isn't bad. They're not a bad defense at all. So I think that, you know, in that way, if you're desperate, there's stranger things have happened. Let's see.
I mean, what are they doing? What are they doing as far as defensives? Like, how have they been scoring?
What do you mean?
The Jags.
The Jags, how have they been?
I mean,
has their defense been scoring?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They got 49 points on the. Yeah, they haven't been super good. They've scored in double digits once all season.
They killed the Bills. They had over 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
they have negative points in 2 games. So yes, that's why I was like, I didn't want to bring them up, but you kind of have to, because based on their matchups alone, like you said, the 2 worst offenses in football right now. So Houston, Jets, you know.
And you saw what they did do against the bad offense in Tennessee. They had 4 sacks. They only allowed 20 points. I mean, it was a decent day for them. On the defensive side of the ball there.
Another team that I hate going into the playoffs defensive wise is the football team. Yeah, they have good defense, but they got tough matchups.
It's a little bit of tough matchup for them.
With the Eagles twice, and then Dallas obviously has a high-powered offense. Philly's going to run it down your throat. Could potentially Jalen. It all depends on Jalen Hurts. Some days Jalen Hurts is, you know, cranking it on with his wheels on the ground, and other times, yeah, they're gonna run it more than not. But when he's throwing it well, you know, they're good.
No, they are. I mean, they can definitely score 30 plus points.
100%.
I mean, they were doing that a whole lot. They're one of the higher scoring teams in the league over the last 6, 7, 8 games or whatever, and they're coming off a bye, so they should be rested up and ready to roll.
Yeah, another defense you want to stay away from in the playoffs is the Panthers. I mean, they got Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Saints. Two of them division rivals, and then Buffalo, obviously, you know, we know who they are. They're, you know, obviously, well, I say that, but then again, their offense is kind of playing like shit as of late.
Yeah,
they just have no freaking run game. It's embarrassing. If I'm a Bills Mafia fan, I mean, you're just sick to your stomach.
Dude,
if they don't go out in the offseason and pick up some badass running back, or even
Devin
draft
Singletary is a badass running back.
We've been saying that for years now.
The guy averages almost 5 yards a carry on the season, and people act like, oh, they can't run, they don't know how. Like, dude, give your running back that averages 5 yards a carry the fucking ball. He's a good running back.
He's a good running back. I just don't think that if you give this guy 20 20 carries a game, he's going to hold up.
So give him 15. He's had 15 like twice this season.
I
every time he responds with 5+ yards per carry.
Yeah.
Last week,
he's their best option, I think.
He's
obviously
a good running back. He's a good player.
But they need a game changing. Like if they didn't run the ball the whole fucking first half in that game. What are they thinking?
That's what I'm saying. And when they did, Singletary popped big runs. He had like 4 carries for 56 yards or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. They just don't run.
They just want Josh Allen to play fucking hero ball.
And that's why they're losing.
Exactly. And that's why he's getting hurt.
Yeah, it's exactly right. He's dropping back to pass 56 times or 54 times, and he's running the ball 10 times.
And Josh Allen, of course.
You're putting too much on his plate.
Right. And obviously, he's not going to turn it down because he wants to be that special player. But
he's just doing what's asked of him. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not supposed to turn it down.
Exactly. So it's like, and he wants to do great because, he is that type of player that, he wants to win football games. And it's tough to lose. Like, even Urban Meyer said, it eats at your soul.
Oh,
it
dude,
does.
Did you see him walking off the field?
Yes.
Oh, my God, dude.
He looked like he just shit his pants.
He should be embarrassed of himself, dude.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel, was all giddy, ran up to him. He couldn't even look Vrabel in the eyes.
No, he's just like...
He's like, my life sucks.
He cannot handle the heat in the NFL.
No, he can't.
You got to be able to... Dude, these coaches... get paid too, Urban. You're not the big superstar hotshot. Like, these other guys are just as good as you are, or better, much better in many cases.
Much better. Yeah.
And they're looking at you like, oh, this is so funny. Like, this guy thinks he knows what he's doing.
Fuck that guy. I'm so glad that the Longhorns did not get him in their little sweepstakes, and he ended up going to the Jags, and look at him, little bitch. Anyways.
Dude, what happened to the Panthers defense? They came out this season going hot, crazy.
Yeah,
it was like,
they did.
I
don't know. You tell me. That's your team.
Fell off the wagon. I don't know.
Is it injuries? Is it coaching? What is it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think
they have all the players.
It's hard to say it's not coaching. It's definitely a little bit of injury, but not.
They have great defensive players. Especially they picked up Stephon Gilmore, who's has been good. I mean, he was defensive player of the year, was he not? A couple of years ago.
I think that was the last. No. Was that 2? Was it 2 years ago? Yes, it was recently.
Yeah. And then they have what's his name? Your boy.
Shaq Thompson.
No, the cornerback. Jackson. Is that his name?
Oh, he's hurt.
Oh, is
Down to Jackson. Yeah.
Oh, he is.
He's hurt, but they still have good players. I mean, Jackson and J.C. Horn are both hurt, so that sucks.
That's right. Y'all did lose J.C. Horn. That was a huge loss for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, if you correlate it, it might be like you could make the case like, oh, ever since they lost J.C. Horn, which was in week 3 against Houston,
they lost their mojo.
That's really been they really haven't been dominant any other. I mean, they dominated the Cardinals that 1 week and the Falcons 1 week, but for the most part, they have not handled that well. And I mean, the Panthers were literally what was their record at one point? It was 3-0, of course, and then they just started piling up losses. It was crazy. So, I mean, to be honest, I think that maybe they should have signed Cam at least 4, 5, 6 weeks earlier and just brought him in to be a backup and said, like then if Sam Darnold would have fell off the wheels by the time Cam actually knew enough of the offense to get because right now you've asked Cam to come in and learn the offense and play at the same time, and it's tough, right? Because how could you do that? Like, even last year when Cam was signed by the Patriots, he was signed in like July or something, right? So he had like a month and a half to learn the offense before the season started, and it still was slow. He hasn't even been in Carolina for a month and a half right now. So it's like, it's tough. You know what I mean? But what about no, I was gonna say the Browns are sort of interesting, but they play the Packers in week 16, don't like that.
Yeah, I think the Bengals are a little interesting. I mean, they got the Broncos this week, and then they got the Ravens, who've been absolutely playing shit, and then they got the Chiefs. But I don't know if you're starting them against the Chiefs in your fantasy championship, but definitely maybe a streamer this week against the Broncos. Obviously, they're playing well, so then again, that's kind of iffy. Yeah. But on paper, it seems like the Bengals, could have at least 2 good games out of the 3.
Yeah, I think that not this week, and maybe because of that, they'll be available for you. But the Saints defense, they finished the season, or you're going to finish your fantasy season with them playing the Dolphins and the Panthers. The Dolphins have been playing great, but they've been doing a whole lot with their defense. They haven't been lighting up scoring with their offense, so it's not been like Tua's not going to go in there and light up the Saints, and it'll be a Monday Night Football game too. So it will be in Miami. Or no, it'll be in New Orleans. Oh, well. So I think that plays to the Saints' advantage there. Let's see what Tua can do on prime time. Yep. And then, of course, the Panthers' offense has been playing poorly, man. I mean, you would have to imagine the Saints' defense will be able to, if you're desperate, not even desperate, but if you just need a streaming, if you're a guy that streams defenses, I think that they make sense in that week. So, but yeah.
I think that pretty much
all
wraps
right,
it
kickers. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I think we're going to skip that. If you have a kicker, you've been going all year, starting all year,
Dude,
you're starting them.
I've been streaming kickers
you're starting,
every week.
You're starting Ravens, Justin Tucker. You're starting Harrison Butker.
Yeah,
you're starting
those
Tyler
are the
Bass.
ones that I actually have kept Butker on my roster like all year.
Matt Gay. I mean, those are pretty much your guys.
Matt Gay. Yeah. Well,
that wraps it up.
That's it.
Yeah. Like we said, fantasy football players are here. It's exciting.
Unless you're playing against me, then I wish you
hey, it's win or go home, guys. If you've been watching us all season, we hope that we've been able to give you a little bit of insight and got you guys to the motherland. If not, tough sledding. Obviously, I have the most points in my fantasy league, and I'm in 8th place, 9th place, I think. I just,
You missed the playoffs, in other words.
It's rough, and I have, well, my team's kind of falling apart here, but
I ended your season that one week. It was like just.
Well, no,
you needed that win.
I needed to win out after I lost to you, and then of course I put up a stinker.
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson had like 5 interceptions or whatever it was that week. But
the Dolphins week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was so mad. But anyways, that'll wrap it up here. Hopefully you guys get your lineup set for this week and throughout the fantasy football matchup playoffs. I don't know what I just said, but
yeah.
Like I said,
point is we appreciate you guys for listening.
Yes.
Leave comments of any questions you have below, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, subscribe, ring the bell. You know the drill, and we will catch you guys in the next one.